frontage of 12 meters and minimum lot area of 360 square meters for single detached dwelling lots. And this chart shows the difference in terms of the lot size and area requirements between the R1 and the R2 zone. You can see that by changing the zoning to R2, the requirement for the frontage is reduced from 15 meters down to 12, and the requirement for the lot area is reduced from 420 square meters down to 360 square meters for single detached dwellings. These applications were circulated for comments to agencies and town departments. The Niagara region had no objection to these applications, subject to their requested condition, which relates to access for waste collection. Town Public Works indicated that they are not supportive of the proposed driveway locations at this time. They also provided technical comments regarding the functional servicing report, the traffic brief, and the preliminary site servicing and grading plan. Town Planning advised the applicant that if the applications are supported, the recommended improvements from the traffic brief would be the responsibility of the developer. Those improvements included an extension to the median that's planned for Kersey Crescent, as well as the addition of some stop signs and stop bars. Planning staff also recommended that the driveway location on Lot 4 be located further west per the traffic brief recommendations. And the final comment from planning was that should the applications be approved, there is a 0.3 reserve along a Kersey Crescent that will have to be lifted prior to access. The application was also circulated for public comments. Only one comment was received from a member of the public. It was received from Helen Bates. She had some concerns about drainage. She noted that her land is low and she was concerned about flooding. She also made some comments about some vegetation behind her property, but I would note that those comments relate to a different property from that's being considered tonight as part of these applications. Her comments related to the Emerald Trail property. A number of technical reports were submitted with these applications. They include a planning justification report, a functional servicing report, a preliminary site servicing and grading plan, a traffic brief, and a stage 1 and 2 archaeological assessment. These reports are available for viewing on the Town of Pelham website. There's a project page on the Engaging Pelham section of the website. And in conclusion, and as stated earlier, there are no decisions or recommendations about these applications being made tonight. Once all of the comments are received and questions answered, planning staff will prepare a recommendation report for council's consideration at a later date. Please ensure that if you wish to receive future notices, you provide your contact information to myself or to the clerk as soon as possible. And following tonight's meeting, I can be reached by telephone 905-980-6661 or by email slarock@pelham.ca. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your presentation, Ms. LaRock.
So, Mr. Chair, we now have Mr. Craig Rowe here with Upper Canada Consultants. He's representing the applicants in this file, and he has a short presentation for the committee's information.
Okay, thank you, and thank you, Mr. Rowe. You have the floor.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Yes, my name is Craig Rowe. I'm a senior planner with Upper Canada Consultants. We're a planning and engineering firm based in St. Catharines at 30 Hanover Drive. It's my intention this evening to just provide a bit of a brief overview of what the applications entail. Staff did a really good job of characterizing kind of the context of the property and everything. I'll just provide a little bit more detail, and then hopefully you have some questions about what we're proposing, and I can answer those as well for you this evening. So the overview of the application that we have is pertaining to 1112 Hay Street. So that property is located at the corner of what will be a Kersey Crescent, which is one of the roads for the new Emerald Trail subdivision, and Hay Street. So this property, in consultation with our client, they're looking to develop it as 4 lots. So typically, these kind of small-scale developments usually would see them show up on a committee of adjustment agenda. But in this case, the town's official plan has detailed policy that says if you're creating more than 3 lots, you need to go through a draft plan of subdivision. So that's why the large application is before the town. Concurrent with that, we also have an application for a zoning bylaw amendment. And the intention of that zoning bylaw amendment is to upzone the property from the low-density R1 to the low-density R2 designation. When we made our application submission, it was just as the bylaw was then being approved by the OLT. So we had to revise a couple of things, and some of the site-specific lotting provisions and setbacks we were asking for were actually captured in the new zoning bylaw. So this is just a straight-up change going from R1 to R2. And the reason for that is the length of the property fits perfectly with the required minimum lot sizing for the interior lots and the exterior. 12 on the interior, 15s on the exterior. So the zoning bylaw amendment itself is just a straight zone change, no site-specific provisions coming with that. And through the course of preparing these applications, we've been working closely with the engineering consultant for Emerald Trail to help coordinate some of their infrastructure improvements, sharing our grading and servicing information so that if they do proceed to construction shortly, we can make sure that we're accounted for in that so there's a minimal disruption to any municipal works that are taking place. So just an aerial view of where the subject lands are. They're shown in red on the property. So the property itself is about 0.172 hectares, so about 0.4 acres of land area. It's got 31.6 meters of frontage out along Hay Street. And then we have 54.41 meters of flankage along what's going to be a Kersey Crescent. The subject lands currently contain a single detached dwelling, as well as some accessory structures on the property as well. Within the yellow line behind that is the new Emerald Trail subdivision. So the subdivision itself is draft approved and moving forward towards registration. It's going to have a mix of R2 zone single detached lots, similar to what we're asking for, as well as some street townhomes out in the middle of it. And then further in green are the remnant lands of the arena property, which is a municipal park, not Rolling Meadows Park. I was corrected on that as I came in today. So that'll remain as municipal parkland. It's our understanding that in the bottom corner here, if you can see my mouse, this is the location of a new parking lot. So the public will be taking access in through the Emerald Trail subdivision to park their vehicles and then go and enjoy the park. So just in terms of some context, if members of council haven't had the opportunity to get out there, this is 1112 Hay Street. So as you can see, it's a bungalow detached dwelling. You can see the accessory structures off in the background, a couple of mature trees flanking Hay Street. Further north of that, past the access to what will be Emerald Trail, are 3 recently constructed single detached dwellings. So these were peeled off from the land holding and brought forward through previous consent applications and are now developed and occupied. Across the road to the east, more single detached dwellings. This is what is directly across from the subject land. So again, single detached are being proposed, very compatible with what we're finding in the neighborhood. And then immediately to the south of the property are 2 recently built single detached dwellings constructed within the past 10 years. So the draft plan of subdivision that's before you has 5 parts to it. There's 4 lots for the single detached dwellings. And then as I zoom in a little bit closer here, you can see this little strip. This is a 0.3 meter reserve, the 1 foot reserve, and that's to limit the ability for anyone to put an access out to Hay Street. Our preliminary design base is taking all of our access off a Kersey Crescent, so if there was a good design that warranted that access back to Hay Street, council would have to lift that reserve and authorize that urban condition to take place. So in terms of the planning framework, Ms. LaRocque did a great job of providing an overview, but briefly again, the subject lands are within the settlement area boundary. They're within the delineated built-up area, which means that anything that occurs on the subject lands will be contributed as intensification towards the municipality's local intensification target of 25%. So by 2051, the town of Pelham needs to achieve over about 1,000 units to meet that target. This, I know it's just 4 lots, but it's still 4 lots contributing towards that overall target, so it is in conformity with that. It's designated as urban living area in the town's official plan, which permits a variety of residential land uses, and in this case, single detached dwellings are permitted. Our lots are going to have frontage on a Kersey Crescent, which will ultimately be a local public road, and it'll have that flankage on Hay Street. And then building upon the intensification policies of the city's official plan, intensification is encouraged within 100 meters of collector and arterial roads. As you heard from Ms. LaRocque, Hay Street is a collector road, so this falls right within that. And with regards to the zoning bylaw that's applicable, the R1 and the R2 zone both permits single detached dwellings. We're just trying to upzone that to maximize and most efficiently use the land. So we completed some technical studies along with the application. Those consisted of a transportation impact study by R.V. Anderson. And the main reason for completing that was just of the way that Emerald Trail is oriented. It has a center median down the middle, so traffic enters on the north side, and then when traffic leaves, it goes out the south side. There's no break in that median, so one of the concerns that was flagged for us is, can you please do a demonstration and make sure that if cars are pulling a U-turn, there's no challenges to any safety or anything like that. So we completed that report. It gave us an idea of the amount of traffic volume. We're looking at about 5 peak trips or 4 peak hour trips in the morning, 5 in the PM, which is very minor. No concerns on the volume or the ability of the road to handle this. But what I will add to that, there are some strategic improvements that were assumed. Although we're certainly happy to work with the town in the provision of anything that's required, a lot of the conditions that were flagged in our traffic study were based on that existing condition approved in Emerald Trail, which effectively, the biggest concern is that when people come in just past that municipal parking lot, they're recommending there be a stop bar there so they can see the clear traffic move through, a stop bar further over on Street 2 towards the south end of cars are coming around and then going out the exit, and then another one that would be in the other area. And the extension of the median is proposed because if you're coming from the south end, you would actually cut right across active traffic on an angle right into the parking lot, and they're trying to avoid that. So those improvements are assumed in our report. We don't have any concerns with them, and we're happy to work with staff on finding a reasonable solution. As I know, we've been working with the adjacent developer to kind of coordinate the infrastructure approval, so we should be able to come to a resolution on that. In terms of our functional servicing and stormwater work that we completed, again, we've been working with UEM, who's done the servicing works and design on this. We told them what we were proposing to build, so that capacity and opportunities for providing the lateral connections ahead of time to not disrupt that new construction has been accounted for, and we've been working back and forth collaboratively. And then lastly, we completed an archaeological assessment. There were no finds on the site, and our reports are currently at the ministry waiting for final clearance. So in terms of our next steps and my final comments here, we'll be reviewing any public, agency, and town comments, as well as any of the comments that you may have for me this evening, any revisions to the draft plan or applications as required, and then this will come before council for a decision. And if the application should be approved, we'll then move into our detailed engineering work in coordination, of course, with the adjacent developer, clear those conditions, register the development, and get under construction and provide some new housing there. And just from a design perspective, our clients are really of the opinion that by changing the orientation of development here, it really better helps frame that entrance into Emerald Trail, gives you some built form there, and there's a really nice opportunity to really extend that new neighborhood out towards Hay Street. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions for clarification, Mr. Chair?
Okay, does anyone have any questions for clarification? Councillor Niznik?
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Rowe, just a question. So the 4 lots, the intent is to have single dwelling units on those only?
Through Mr. Chair, yes, that's correct. The R2 zone only permits the single detached dwellings. That's what we're going for.
Okay. Well, it does have other applicants. You can put other townhouses there on an R2, or not? Through you to Ms. LaRocque?
Through you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, that's correct. There are other permitted uses in the R2 zone, including a duplex and a semi. So there would be the potential to build something other than a single detached dwelling on these lots.
Thank you.
So any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I'd like to throw my 2 cents in. So,
We'll get to comments a little later.
okay,
So this is questions only of the applicant for clarification on
Okay.
the proposal.
all right.
Okay.
Okay, so I would now open the floor to the in-person public gallery for comments. If anyone in the gallery wishes to make a verbal presentation, please make your way to the center podium. Please turn on the microphone and state your name for the record before proceeding. Seeing none,
Turn it back to me. Thank you.
there you go.
Thank you. So it would appear that we don't have anybody in the audience that wishes to make a presentation. But before we close the public portion, I'm just going to check with Ms. Legros. Do we have anyone that has contacted us via email or wishing to participate via Zoom?
I can confirm that we haven't received anything in the clerk's email.
Nothing? Good, thank you. So then, Mr. Chair, we could entertain a motion to close the public portion of the meeting and move for committee input.
So could I have a motion to close? So Councillor, do we need a seconder?
No.
Councillor Olson?
And we'll just call the vote on that, starting with Councillor Olson,
Yes.
Councillor Eckhart,
Yes.
Councillor Niznik,
Yes.
Councillor Kerr,
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrand,
Yes.
and Chair Wink.
Yes.
So the public portion of the meeting is now closed. We'll move to 5.4 on the agenda, which is actually the committee input. So this would be an opportunity for the committee to discuss the application, ask questions of the planner if they have any.
So any councillor have any questions? It's okay. We've got all evening.
Yes, sorry.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So yes, through you, Deputy Mayor, this might be a question actually for our planner rather than the developer, since he's not in charge of the road design in front of those lots. Is there any opportunity or chance for reconsideration with regards to that median in the middle of that road? To remove that, do that 4 cars turning in to those 4 properties, plus friends and neighbors and that sort of thing. Parking will be limited on the street in that area as well. It would just be very awkward for those 4 residents to have to come in, go up and around and make a U-turn and then come back to their street. That doesn't seem to make sense to my thinking, but I'm not the planner.
Okay.
I just wanted to make a comment that along with Councillor Niznik's question is me, I'm looking at that thinking it won't be long before those 4 residents are cutting down the inside to get to their driveways without having to go around the median. So I just wanted to put that in there before the planner answered.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. So the director is putting up her hand and will make comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, through you. So the median, unfortunately, is required. It was part of the design for the Emerald Trail subdivision. And in order to comply with the building code requirements, you needed 2 means of access or entrance into that subdivision, because that subdivision has a road that's longer than 90 meters in length. And the workaround that is the center line is the median, which divides the entrance and provides kind of the 2 ways in. That being said, so if there is an emergency and one entrance is blocked, you still have the ability to come out the other entrance. So the median is required to have compliance with the Ontario Building Code. So that's why the median is there. The design of the median is such that that turning around or cutting through is certainly discouraged. And so, I mean, these are issues that I think our public works staff have raised, and we'll be having further conversations with the applicant and their designers to work through some of those issues. But unfortunately, we have to have the medium there. And putting brakes into the median is also not a good engineering solution, because that will create more opportunity for conflict with traffic. So it is something that we've certainly flagged and are looking at, but we can't remove the median, unfortunately.
So thank you, Ms. Weens. Counselor?
Thank you, Ms. Weens. I take it that's out of your control, but that still, in reality, I guess the real doesn't quite make sense to my thinking. If there's a wide enough road, you have access. It's the same with Summersides going through there. You have that big, long median in the middle. If a car stalls in the middle of that, there is absolutely no way for a car behind it to get out of that area. They would have to back up the whole way. So this is a much smaller median. I see that. So I'm not sure who in the building code maybe needs to rethink that rule or law, but it just still doesn't quite make sense. I can see not having the brakes in there, that would create maybe more issue, but that's you know, I guess it is what it is at the moment. But so there is no opportunity for an extended road to go into the subdivision that's in behind there to create a second access into the subdivision where I guess it's the playground is over in that corner.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, that's correct. There's no opportunity to get access through to Rhodes Court or to Rolling Meadows without impacting the subdivision, and there's a stormwater management facility. And at the time that Emerald Trail was, being looked at, those were things that we, looked at that time in terms of, is it possible to get a second means of access there? And unfortunately, it wasn't.
Okay, well, as I said, we use that in and out of that parking lot and driveway for 40 years without too much incident, cars coming both ways, and that would be about the same width as the approach and into and out of the arena. So that's unfortunate that that's the current building code right now. So my other one question is, in the building report, there's a picture with a triangle that highlights, and again, this may be from Ms. Weens, was the highlighted area has been accounted for in the stormwater drainage calculations in the adjacent subdivision. Only part 1 has their sump pump directed to the STM manhole. And just could you expand on that a little bit for us? That's the functional servicing report.
Okay.
It doesn't have a page number, sorry.
Sorry, thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, through you. So that was Public Works comments with respect to the functional servicing report. So that has to do with some clarification that our Public Works staff were asking for from the design engineer on the area that was included in that manhole capture area, the storm manhole. So they were asking for clarification there.
Counselor?
Thank you. So did we get any clarification on that from the developer?
I'll have Craig Rowe
Yes,
answer
Mr.
that
Rowe.
question.
Certainly. Thank you for the question. Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, we did account for that. That was part of our detailed design, working to ensure that all of that area that would be developed was captured and it will be directed towards that manhole. So I checked that with our professional engineer at the office today.
So excuse me, but forgive me, but is that not part of lot 1 or part 1 where the manhole is? Is that what the circle is on that picture? That's in the planning report, information report application. But maybe that's not where the manhole is. I'm probably wrong. Don't read drawings very well. Is that, maybe he just highlighted that. Oh, that's what he's done. He circled part 1 has their sump pump directed to the STM manhole.
Yes, apologies. I'm just I'm bringing this up. Yes, so the manhole, the way that the drainage in the rear yard portion of this development is going to work is everything that comes to the rear will be captured in a swale, and then that swale is then directed westbound, and then it travels into Emerald Trail, and they do have a storm manhole that's located within that development. So all of our drainage ultimately hooks up to there. So the comment was that area in blue, did we account for that amount of flow going in there? Do they have enough capacity? And yes, we did.
Excellent. That's my question to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Eckhart.
So with that answer, does that alleviate the concerns of the lady on Welland Road about possible flooding into her backyard? Does that take that into consideration?
So to the director.
So, Mr. Deputy Mayor, through you, so that's Mrs. Bates' property, and there is a what's referred to as a infiltration trench or a French drain at the back of those lots set back onto her property to capture the drainage so that there wouldn't be runoff onto her land. So that has been done in the design for the Emerald Trail subdivision. And so this area goes to a manhole that is not directed to those French drains. This goes into a manhole that's in the storm sewer that then is in the roadway and goes out to the storm sewer on Hay Street.
So Councillor Eckhart.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Weens. Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, I'll direct one question to you, Mr. Rowe. In the agency comments, Public Works is not supportive of the proposed driveway locations. Since you are representing the applicant, do you have any comments with respect to that and what can be done to rectify their concern?
Certainly. Thanks for the question, Mr. Chair. The plan that we provided just showed preliminary grading, and it was just a general demonstration of how the grading and the servicing was going to work. It wasn't a marriage to one configuration. And actually, what was shown in that engineering drawing is contradictory to the traffic study. So on that corner lot, it's expected that it be moved as far away as possible from Street 2, so it would be on the east side of that property. So that was just a demonstration drawing to indicate that it can be serviced, it can be graded properly, and these lots can be developed. So no problem.
So more to come.
More to come, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rowe. Seeing no other hands, I'll turn it to the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So that brings us to consideration of resolutions. If the committee's ready, I do have a resolution moved by Councillor Hildebrand that the committee receive report number 2023-114 for information as it pertains to file numbers 26T19-01-2023 and AM-03-2023, and that the committee direct planning staff to prepare the recommendation report on this topic for council's future consideration.
Okay.
If the committee's ready, I can commence the vote with Councillor Hildebrand.
Yes.
Councillor Kerr.
Yes.
Councillor Niznik.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Eckhart.
Yes.
And Chair Wink.
Yes.
So that motion is carried. Thank you. I have a motion moved by Councillor Eckhart that the committee receive the applicant's presentation for information. If the
Any
committee,
further comments? Seeing none?
I'll start the vote with Councillor Kerr,
Yes.
Councillor Niznik,
Yes.
Councillor Olson,
Yes.
Councillor Eckhart,
Yes.
and Councillor Hildebrand.
Yes.
Chair Wink.
Yes.
So that motion is carried. Thank you. Now move to a resolution moved by Councillor Niznik that the committee receive the written correspondence as listed on the agenda. And that was from the one letter that we received from the property owner adjacent.
So any comments? Seeing none? To the clerk?
So commencing the vote with Councillor Niznik,
Yes.
Councillor Olson,
Yes.
Councillor Eckhart,
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrand.
Yes.
And Councillor Kerr.
Yes.
and Chair Wink.
Yes.
So that motion's carried. Thank you. So without any other business or questions from the committee, I do have a resolution, again moved by Councillor Niznik, that the special committee of the whole, the public meeting under the Planning Act, be now adjourned.
For the vote?
Starting with Councillor Olson,
Yes.
Councillor Eckhart,
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrand.
Yes.
Councillor Kerr,
Yes.
Councillor Niznik,
Yes.
and Chair Wink.
Yes.
So that motion is carried, Mr. Chair.
So I declare it is 6:15 and this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.